Addiction is often seen as a lack of control, but beneath it lies a pattern of thinking that quietly shapes every decision. What starts as a simple search for relief or pleasure can slowly turn into a cycle that feels impossible to break. In this video, we explore the different mindsets that drive addiction, how they develop, and why they keep pulling people back in. As each layer unfolds, you may begin to recognize how these patterns form and what makes them so hard to escape. Reward seeking mindset, it begins with the brain's natural desire for pleasure and relief. Certain activities or substances create a strong sense of reward, often through dopamine release, and the mind starts to associate them with feeling better or escaping discomfort. Over time, this link becomes stronger, and the person may begin to seek that reward more often, not out of curiosity anymore, but out of habit and need. Escapism mindset. This develops when a person turns to a behavior or substance to avoid difficult emotions or situations. Stress, loneliness, anxiety, or unresolved pain can push the mind to look for an exit. The addiction becomes less about pleasure and more about relief. What starts as a temporary escape slowly becomes a primary coping method, making it harder to face reality without it. Justification mindset. Here, the mind begins to create reasons to continue the behavior, even when it causes harm. Thoughts like, I deserve this, or it's not that bad, start to feel convincing. These justifications are not random, they form as a way to reduce inner conflict. Without them, the person would have to confront the growing gap between their actions and their values. Loss of control mindset. At this stage, the sense of choice begins to weaken. The person may genuinely want to stop or reduce the behavior, but finds themselves returning to it repeatedly. There's often a feeling of being pulled back in, even after making firm decisions to quit. This is where addiction shifts from a pattern into something that feels more like a compulsion. Tolerance mindset. Over time, the same behavior no longer produces the same effect. The brain adapts, and what once felt intense becomes normal. To reach the same level of satisfaction or relief, more of the substance or activity is needed. This gradual increase can happen so quietly that the person may not notice how far things have escalated. Dependence mindset. The body and mind begin to rely on the addictive behavior to function normally. Without it, the person may feel restless, low, or physically unwell. The absence of the substance or activity becomes uncomfortable, and using it again brings a sense of temporary stability. It is no longer just about feeling good, but about avoiding feeling bad. Identity shift mindset. As addiction deepens, it can begin to shape how a person sees themselves. They may start to believe that this behavior is simply part of who they are. Statements like, this is just me, or I can't change, reflect a shift where the addiction becomes tied to identity. This makes change more difficult because it feels like changing the self, not just a habit. Isolation mindset. The person may begin to withdraw from others, either to hide their behavior or because they feel misunderstood. Relationships can become strained and social circles may shrink. Isolation often strengthens addiction as there are fewer external perspectives or support systems to challenge the pattern. Shame cycle mindset. Feelings of guilt and shame often follow episodes of addictive behavior. The person may regret their actions and promise to change, but those same painful emotions can drive them back to the addiction as a way to cope. This creates a loop where shame feeds the behavior and the behavior deepens the shame. Recovery awareness mindset. This is the point where the person begins to see the pattern clearly and recognizes the need for change. It does not mean the addiction disappears, but there is a shift in awareness. The individual starts to understand their triggers, their thoughts, and the role the addiction plays in their life. From here, change becomes possible, not through force, but through understanding and gradual rebuilding. Addiction is not just about the behavior itself, but the mindset that builds around it over time. Each pattern we've explored shows how the mind adapts, protects, and sometimes traps itself in cycles that feel difficult to break. Understanding these mindsets brings clarity. It shifts the focus from blame to awareness and from confusion to insight. And in that awareness, the possibility of change begins to take shape. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, do subscribe to my channel. See you next time.